Hello, and welcome back to Jeff's Giant Growing Journal. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to speak at a new and upcoming club in Hamilton, Ohio called Germ to Giant. It was the first time I got to speak at a seminar, and my brother and his family came to watch, and my nephew was kind enough to record it for me, so I thought I'd share it out here for you guys to see. A little bit about myself. I'm Jeff Tile. I grew the 2195. In the picture is my wife, Michelle, my son, Hunter, my daughter, Sarah. Hunter is sitting back here. He came with me today. What got me started in growing giant pumpkins was actually a family competition. In 2015, I believe it was, my dad started growing again. And I'm not sure what he ended up growing that year, probably 300 or 400 pound pumpkin. At the end of that year, I said, Dad, I'm going to beat you. And the next year, I started 2 plants, killed both of them, over-fertilized. Everything I read, they were heavy feeders, so I was just dumping fertilizer to them, killed them both. The next year, 2017, I grew a 290 pound pumpkin, took it to Barnesville. I think I placed 10th. That year I witnessed the 2150 Skinner get weighed. Talked a little bit to Todd that night on the way out. I had that pumpkin and said one day, and I walked away. And Todd, he kind of chuckled a little bit, but it took a few years, but I got it. But I'm going to go back a little further. What really got me started was back in 1985. My dad took a 374 pound pumpkin to the Barnesville Pumpkin Festival and took first place. So in 35, 36 years, it went from 374 pounds to 2,185. That's what it took to get first place. So that's a little bit about me and why or how I got involved into it. I also grow squash. This is Lady. Mike talked a little bit about naming them. All my fruits have names. I usually name them about day 20. I usually do not name them. Usually it is my family that does it. Usually my kids or my wife will name them. My wife actually is Lucy, and that's Lucy. And Lady, my wife named both of them this year. This was the new state record squash for about 10 minutes. Because after the way off that I took this to Todd Skinner took a 2164, which happens to be the new world record as well. So I guess I got beat by the world record, so I guess we'll take it. This is loading day, and so that's Lucy. And I grew it off the 1747 candy. He's talking about the Christmas tree pattern. You can see here, the stump is right here, and it's growing straight out. And it's a good view of what a Christmas tree pattern looks like as it's growing. Right here, it's June 11th. I believe I pollinated, it was right around that time, so that plant's about 250 square feet. It's a little smaller than I'd like. I'd rather be about 350 square feet, because you can see here, the edge of my patch is from here up to about right there. That's a 30 by 30 area. It's 900 square feet. So my pollination, I want about 350, 400 square feet before I pollinate. And here you can see my walking boards. I use drip line to water my plants with, and I walk on walking boards as I'm going through, and you can see I'm burying my leaf nodes. I do not rinse mine off. I don't rinse it off because you can see I'm growing outside. The rain washes it off. I don't bother with it. If I grow in a greenhouse, I probably would. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Probably would have to, because he's losing plant because of it, so it's probably a wise move to do that. Oops. That is a secondary. The only reason I know that for sure is because that's my drip line and the direction it's going. Things happen when you're growing, okay? Mike's talking about, all these things that can go wrong, and they can. It can be disastrous, and you might think, what am I going to do? don't sweat it, okay? It's a small thing, it's a minor thing. What I did there was I would have cut that off, I would threw off the rest of it, and don't worry about it. Nothing you can do about it, don't worry about it. I've had, actually on the 1620, a deer ate the tip off of my mane. It happens. I had a groundhog eat the tip off of my mane one time. At that point, what you do is if the plant's small enough, if you haven't pollinated yet, pick a strong secondary, and I actually will pick the whole thing up. I turn it to where it's going in the direction that the mane is going, and I cut the mane off and I bury it. Now that becomes my new mane. I don't worry about, that's the new mane, so now I can use my tertiaries as my secondaries and find one to pollinate and kill it. Here is on day 5 and day 10. Now that duck is a little misleading because most rubber ducks are about that tall, okay? That one is about that tall, okay? It is a big rubber duck. So, and I do that on purpose because when you look at that picture, you don't realize how big it truly is. I actually had an argument with a guy online this year about the size of it. He didn't think that the pumpkin was as big as what I was claiming it to be because he thought my pumpkin, my duck was that big. It took me literally taking a picture of a 5-gallon bucket with the duck out on top next to the pumpkin for me to convince him that I wasn't lying. Here it is at day 15 and day 20. Same duck. So you can see once they start taking off, they take off. Here's the chart. This is the 2017 chart. I don't know what year his was, but this is what everybody goes by. If they ask you, at day 20, how much does it weigh? Well, it's always an estimate. Okay, we take a measurement, and I don't have it right now. I got a chart further in the slideshow. It shows what Lucy was on day 20. In multiple others. So I've actually got a video on YouTube on how to measure, but to measure, it gets you an estimate. And that's all it is. It's an estimate. It's to see, make sure it's still growing, make sure that get you an idea of what's happening. So on day 20, it was 135 pounds estimated. What do you guys think it was at day 30? Any guesses?
260.
How much?
260.
260? 250? So in 10 days, it's gained, like 400 pounds, 300 pounds.
You know it's on fire.
Right.
It's going to watch it grow.
So he was talking about moving them forward, okay? And this is on day 31. You see this right here, that is my main vine. The stem is right here, okay? My main vine, it's on the ground, it's kind of kinked right here. This one here is still rooted, okay? I actually ended up cutting this, but I couldn't because of the kink, because of the size of it. That stem right there is pretty close to the size of my wrist, okay? You're not going to bend that and move it and do what you want to with it. So I had to pull it forward, and that's what it looked like after I pulled it forward, to relieve this point right here, because just like it's nothing but a giant hose, so it's pushing water and nutrients and everything through there. Well, if you kink that off, it can't get those nutrients through. So you got to pull it forward. I actually had to do it, I believe, twice with this pumpkin. The second time, I think it was 1,200 pounds. It gets interesting. You figure out ways to make things work. The first time I had at this point, I had a 3-foot pin in the ground, and it was straight when I started. It was nowhere close to being straight when I was done. And I'm not even sure, well, at 500 or 600 pounds.
Does you come along with it?
I use a ratchet strap, 2-inch wide ratchet strap. I put a 20-foot toe strap around the pumpkin, and I use a ratchet strap, and I just ratchet it. The nice thing about that is I can flick it one click, and I can watch the pumpkin move And at some point, I will click it once, and I'll go and I'll look. And I come back and I click it once, and I go and I look. So it's kind of a long process. This is not something that you're going to do at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you do it at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're breaking it off when your season's done. You're going to be mad at yourself. Do it in the middle of the afternoon, in the heat of the day, sunny out, so the vines will move. So on day 30, she was 516 pounds. What are you thinking on day 40? Anybody?
40.
How much? 113?
1,010.
1,010? 923. Slow down a little bit, okay?
What month is this?
This would have been into July. Yeah, it would have been July, August, late July. So between day 50 and day 55, you can see how much color she got. Now you see right here is a sheet. I just put a sheet over top of it, just a white sheet. I'll go to Walmart and I buy, or even on Amazon, and I buy the cheapest one I can find. King size. This one was a king size. I ended up getting to the point, because of how tall it was, I bought a 11-foot round tablecloth, and that's what I put over top of it. Because the over-the-top measurement was, it was over 10 feet. So it was very tall. So I keep them covered. Now I put a fan on. You see right here, I got a fan. That fan was on the blossom end probably from day 15 or 20, maybe even earlier than that. You can't see it, but on the back side there's one on the stem as well. I keep them covered, and these cracks, they're growth cracks. Nothing really to worry about. If you get, I call it silicone, it kind of looks like silicone, and once in a while it'll come out of these growth cracks. The most I'll do is I rub that off, maybe some sulfur fungicide, or rubbing alcohol, just to kill anything that might happen. And I got a fan on it. If you keep it dry, it's not going to rot. Here's the patch on August 30th. It's day 73. You can see I got a little bit of things going on here. There's some weeds in there. Corn that I was growing to sell as all-Indian corn here. The pumpkin is covered. My stump is covered. The stump being covered helps. All that is I use a hoop house, similar to what he showed. It's just PVC pipe, half-inch PVC pipe with rebar in the ground, PVC pipe over top of the rebar, and then plastic over top. And that's what I grow initially in. I'll be putting those up probably next weekend. But then once I take the plastic off and let the plant out, I leave the hoops there, because when I decide I'm going to cover up the stump, I will put that plastic back on, but I leave it off the ground so that the wind can get through, air can get through, you still got movement. But it protects that from getting too wet. And if there's any problems with the stump, I can see it, because it's going to be wet right around that stump. So day 90, what do you guys think? Estimated weight?
2,000.
1,700.
1891. I never estimated 2,000. You see here, I got a covering up the stem. I was having some issues with some rot there, so I was trying to keep it as dry as I could. Did it work? It was okay. Alcohol, 91% alcohol. Spray bottle, just keep it down there. I sprayed it. You look close right here, there's a little spot. Sprayed with alcohol every day. Back here, I've got a fan here, I've got a fan here. There's a fan hanging up here. If you look right here, there's a fan right there in the patch. They're inside the leaf canopies. There's another one over here. I've got another one here. I don't remember how many fans I had on here, air movement is key, okay? At this point, this is by far the biggest pumpkin that I've ever grown, and I wasn't taking any chances. Anything that I could do to keep it dry, I was doing. I only grew 2 plants, so that actually relieved some of my fan requirement. So I was able to put more fans, but I did end up buying 2 more to put on the plant because I was worried. Loading day. So loading day, I go through, and at that point, it doesn't matter. Stepping on the plant, pulling the plant out, whatever. I use a tripod system to lift it. You'll see more of this a little bit later. But basically, there's a lifting ring, and these are all just 20-foot toe straps. I actually tie the toe straps in a knot and to make them the right length, and then wrap my rope around through the loops and lift it up. Now you can see flat bottom, that's ideal. Right here, I grow on, it's 2-inch thick insulating foam, which you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever. And then I put holes in it for drainage and just some play sand, thin layer of play sand, and that's all that I do. And one time I've had that was not a flat bottom, and that's because it actually grew into a bird bath. That was a crazy looking pumpkin. I was actually a squash. We talked about the bucket. That's on Wednesday. When Barnesville Way's on a Wednesday. I cut it off. I normally would not cut the other vines off. I'm not sure exactly what my reasoning for cutting them off was. I might have broke when I was loading it. It's hard to say. I kept the main, and yep, it's in a bucket, and that went until about probably a minute before it got lifted to get weighed, is when that got cut off.
Where's the duck?
I did not put a duck in this one. You see right here and right here. Those 2 spots are why that pumpkin got weighed when it got weighed. I was not actually planning on taking this one to Barnesville. I was going to take it to local nurseries. But it cracked. On Monday night, I went down and looked, and I saw this crack. I made some phone calls because now I'm sitting on a cracked pumpkin that I don't know what's going to happen. I measured it on Tuesday morning, and it was still growing 4 pounds a day. I measure every 5 days, and estimated it was still growing 4 pounds a day. So Tuesday morning, I found this crack. I kept close eye on them. I actually cut off the stump, and I cut off 10 secondaries Monday night because I wanted to save it for another 2.5 weeks. And I wasn't sure it was going to make it. So I cut it off, checked everything looked good. Tuesday, everything was fine. Wednesday, they started opening up more, and I went, nope. It was kind of funny. I'm a Christian, so I talked to God a little bit, and it was the second time he said, just take it to Barnesville. So I decided to listen the second time. So I took it to Barnesville. But you can see the size reference with the fragile button on top. My vine pattern. In 2021 and past few years, I have done this. Basically, my stump is right here. I would grow it out, and I would grow tertiaries backwards off of my first secondaries. And then after 4 or 5 of my secondaries, I would start turning the secondaries to go forward to the end of the patch. When you talk about how much plant is behind the pumpkin, even though this is in front of it, it's really behind it because of where it connects to the main. I don't let anything grow after the pumpkin as far as secondaries go. My main, I let it go. Wherever it goes, it goes. The main on Lucy went up into the corn, and I lost track of it. I don't know how long it was at the end of the year. In 2022, I'm going to change it. I'm going to kind of flip it over. My stump, I'm probably going to set in about the same place, but my first secondaries, I'm going to go backwards at an angle. They'll be a little bit shorter, but as the plant ages, those leaves get tired and they're going to die off. These are not what matter at the end of the year. This up here is what matters. So if I can keep this up here healthy, then in theory, it's going to gain more weight longer because healthy leaves equal healthy plant. So you keep it healthy, you're going to keep growing. This is a list of everything that I use in my patch. This does not include the actual fertilizer that I will add based on my soil test. Based on my soil test, there's any number of things that I may be adding, but the alfalfa, dried molasses, humates, kelp meal will all get tilled in ahead of time. Most of that's already tilled in. The azos I will use in my vineberry mix and mycorrhizae as well, the root shield, worm castings, and amino acids all get used in my vineberry mix, and also when I plant, I use that. The fish seaweed, I use Neptune's. It gets it every day. I'm going to use a lot more of it this year. I think we as growers use. If you look at the bottle of what it says, I was using probably a quarter cup, maybe a day, maybe. And it's probably supposed to be closer to 2 or 3 times that, if you really think about it. Urea mate is another one that I use. It gets it every day. Urea mate, I was turned on to that by a guy, a grower named Cecil Weston. If you guys are anywhere around Circleville, you know that name. Cecil now lives up in Michigan, but he's the one that turned me on to urea mate. And basically what it is it is a very well balanced fertilizer, almost perfectly balanced for pumpkins. So I give it every day. And then some type of a nitrogen source, whether it's urea or calcium nitrate. Nitrogen leaches out of your soil. None of my soil tests have nitrogen. I use Waypoint Analytical to get my tests. They don't include it. I don't pay for it. I'm sure they can include it. It leaches out anyway, so I don't worry about it. I just add it every year. There's nitrogen in urea mate also, so that's what I use. And you know, it gets fertilized every day. You know, whatever you're using, if it tells you to add, you know, I'm going to use easy math for me, 7 tablespoons every week. Then you're going to divide that up. If you're going to water it every day and you want to spoon feed it, then you're going to water it with 1 tablespoon every day. Whatever it is, divide it up to a per day usage or per time usage. You know, if you're going to water every 3 days, then divide it by 3, whatever it is, and give it to, so it's getting that same amount over that same time period, but you're giving it a little bit every day. Here's the chart. Here's the growth chart. So you can see on day 20 it was 135 pounds. Day 30 was 516. Now, if you look, let me find it here. Okay, the average pounds per day. If you look here at the data, every 5 days is what I measure. Okay, pounds per day was gaining 33 pounds per day between day 20 and day 25. The max it hit was 43 pounds a day between day 25 and day 30. That is estimated. Did it grow more than that? It did, because it went 15% heavy. On day 95, it was estimated at 1,913 pounds. The day of, I measured it at an estimated 1951. Or, yeah, 1951. It went 15% heavy, so it went to 2195. That percent heavy is based off of these measurements. They can go heavy, they can go light, they can do a chart, but it's all just an estimate anyway. But you can see where it really start out strong, and then it will taper off. as you're going down. Now, it dropped down to 12 pounds here and then back up. That very well could have been a mismeasurement by me, okay? They very rarely, once they drop off, come back up. It pretty much never happens. I'll never say never because anything is possible. But this over here it's a benchmark chart. I don't know when it was put out. Originally, it was done, I think in 2014. I don't remember who did it, but they were saying, okay, basically to get to 1,400 pounds, here is the numbers, the OTTs, or the circumference that you want to hit on a certain day. What I've done is I took those same measurements and I put in the numbers from the 2017 chart. So really, it's a roadmap to 1,500 pounds, not 1,400 pounds. Over time, we as growers with our selective breeding have created bigger, more dense pumpkins. So you get a difference in the chart. So really what this is just a roadmap to 1,500 pounds. And it's a benchmark. It's something just to see, be able to reference and go, well, how am I doing? Am I going to hit 1,500? Am I going to hit 1,000? What am I going to hit? Just to give you an idea. That's all it is. You guys have any questions? I do have a few more slides, but do you have any questions before?
Is that electric fence I saw?
Yes. Yes. I put up an electric fence because where I live, I have deer. I never had a problem actually until this year with deer messing with my pumpkins, but I was growing off to the side of my giants. I was growing jackrabbits to be able to sell, and I have had deer mess with them. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to solve a little problem. I'm going to put up an electric fence. And after, I didn't put it up yet, and they ate the mane off of my 1620 plant. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to go ahead and put it up real quick, and I'm going to enclose the giants, because I wasn't sure I was going to, because I've never had a mess with them. But after that, I went ahead and did it.
No, I get it.
And it wasn't, it's not a strong electric fence. It's actually the smallest one you can buy.
Just deter.
Yeah, it's just a deterrent. And what I do, deer struggle with depth perception. So that is, it's just one strand here, the next strand inside about 3 feet. And that's all it is. And that's enough. They don't know that they can easily jump that. It's nothing for deer to do. But they don't know it, so they don't try it. And the electric is there. If you're a hunter and you know, you watch your videos after, you'll see that the deer will know if the electric fence is on or not. They have a sense that they know. So if you leave it unplugged, they'll just jump in and not worry about it. But with it on there, it's just enough of a charge that they know they just stick with it. So it helped. Any other questions? You guys overwhelmed?
How much time do you spend a week on that plant?
You really want to know all of it?
Yeah.
It's my second job.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a second job. My wife has told me already, I'll see you in October. It's, you know, my wife, this past year, my wife was leaving for work at 6:30. She would walk out the door, she would go this way to her car, I would go this way to the bench. And I was down there until about 7:30 because I had to be at work at 8. And then I would get home, and depending on when I got done with work, I would either go inside to eat dinner, or I would go straight down to the patch for a little bit, and then go eat dinner, and then go back down. At the peak of it, it's a lot. You know, you're 2-3 hours a day, and then Saturdays or Sundays, it's half the course of the day down there. Just trying to keep up with the maintenance of it. Do you have to? No, you don't. You don't have to bury vines. I do. A lot of growers do. It's not a requirement to grow a big one. There's a grower in Pennsylvania, Dave Stutz. Didn't bury any vines at all this year. Lost some that were potential world records. It wasn't because of the vine burying, it was some other issues. But it's not a requirement, but that's what it needs up a lot of the time. is that back there. The loading day picture, if you really, really paid attention and really saw, knew what you were looking at, there is a steel Mr. Blower. It's an SR200. If you have $400 to spend and you don't know what to buy that. That will save you so much time, it's not even funny. And money, because yeah, you're spending $400 on that, but it holds 2 gallons of liquid. That 2 gallons I can spray 2 plants with my fungicide and insecticide, and I can do it in probably 10-15 minutes, where if I'm using a pump sprayer, I'm using probably 4 or 5 gallons, and it's taking me an hour. And I can get it better with that sprayer. So, you know, if you have $400 to spend and you're growing a full-size plant and you're worried about time, spend it, because it will save you a ton of time.
Makes an awesome Christmas present.
Well, that was my birthday present. So, yeah, but it's worth every penny. Anything else? All right. So, this is what I have dubbed the handy knuckle. Okay, it's what I lift my pumpkins with. All right, I make this. I sell this. I do have one of these with me today if somebody would want one. Basically what it uses is steel pipe. You use Schedule 40, you use Schedule 80. I use Schedule 80. In this particular picture here, that Schedule 80 pipe, there's a trailer down here. That total weight is about 3,600 pounds. It has it up off the ground. Okay, it will lift any pumpkin that anybody has ever grown or will ever grow for a very long time. The reason that it is called the handy knuckle is it is not my design. A gentleman by the name of Steve Handy, and if the name Handy sounds familiar, it's because the 1747 Handy is very much on the 195. Steve Handy had this design, and I would have never stole the design, except he passed away back in, I think it was in June, of cancer. And he had actually contacted me back in November or December to get some of my 1699 seeds. My 1699 went 22% heavy. So he wanted to cross my 1699 with his 1747 and with his, I believe it was a 1498 that went 23% heavy. So after he passed away, there was nobody that made these, so I decided I was going to make them. The other thing that I started making is the lifting. The lifting ring, there's several different people that make them, but I sell these as well. The other thing that I make is, thankfully my son decided that he wanted a 3D printer for Christmas, and I'm turning it into a business. These are cord covers. 99% of the time, you're never going to have an issue running extension cords in your patch. You know, I never had a problem until last year. I melted 2 or 3 ends, 3 ways, you know, and the last thing you really want is to walk down into your patch and go, why are my 6 fans not running? Because it got wet. So I've designed these to basically keep them dry. They're not waterproof. If you dump water on them, you're using water. Okay, but there is some stakes to keep them up off the ground. But if it's something that you're concerned about, you know, I do 3D print them and ship them wherever. The last thing I'm going to talk about is Pumpkin Wars. I have a YouTube channel. Okay, it is Jeff's Giant Growing Journal on YouTube. I post videos. Last year was a lot of informational videos. This year will be a lot of Pumpkin Wars stuff. Pumpkin Wars was kind of created really by all 4 of us. There's myself, Scott Mike of Tennessee, Chris Roderball of West Virginia, and Jacob Princer of Kansas. We've all got a YouTube channel. We got together and said, let's basically have a challenge and challenge each other, push each other, is what it really comes down to. Just get some information out there to any grower that's interested in growing or just wants to know how we do things. If you go on and subscribe to the channels and watch them, you're going to see a lot of crap given. There's a lot of name mispronunciation on purpose. But what you guys don't see is behind the scenes is on here. No messages right now, but they were going crazy this morning. We talk, we help each other. It's about the growing community. It's a very weird competition because as you grow, you realize, like, I'm not just going to grow and worry about me and go, well, I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing on my patch because I don't want you to beat me. It's not what it's about. It's about getting everybody, to grow the biggest pumpkin that they possibly can grow. And if you have a question, reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. My Facebook page is Jeff's Giant Growing Journal. Go on there, like it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you're going to learn something. If you got questions, reach out to me. Facebook Messenger or whatever. If you want a lifting ring or anything like that, Facebook message, email me, whatever. But the Pumpkin Wars, we're just having fun with it. You're going to learn something. You're going to find that we all do something a little bit different. Jacob grows in a greenhouse. As of right this minute, the other three do not. I won't tell you what's going to happen probably at the end of April. It's about having fun and just trying to push it out there and get it out there. Now, subscribing to it, picking a team, okay? If you pick a team, then at the end of the year, we will actually do a seed giveaway. Whoever wins will end up winning seeds from really all four of us. And you don't have to pick me, but if you want to lose, then pick one of the others. If you want to win, you pick me, okay? But yeah, there's we give each other a lot of hard time in the videos, but it's all good fun. So, I think, yeah, that's all I got.
Well, in honor of Jeff Field his duck, if anybody wants a duck, I purposely got these little guys, so when you grow your pumpkin, you can grow that.
That was the size of his duck.
Well, like I told him, today's the first day I actually met Jeff in person. We've seen each other online for how many years now?
Yeah, it's been a few.
And this is the first time we've talked on the phone, and when I saw him, I thought he was little. Oh my God, your pumpkins are totally different scale to me now. So.
Yeah, the duck is it's a size reference to give people an idea. The duck will not happen this year. It will be something else. I'm not sure what.
We get to say that.
Because I've got a 3D printer. Actually, I got access to a 3D printer now. It's hard to say what it's going to be. But one other thing that I do have, I have some seeds that she's going to draw some numbers, and we're going to give away 5 of the 2195s to whoever gets drawn. I fully expect this seed to go heavy. How heavy? I don't know. I'm hoping 10 to 20%, but we'll see. I don't know. It's cheap this year. Next year, I guarantee you it's not going to be this cheap. But we got a number?
225-9503.
Hopefully you were able to take something away from my presentation, and hopefully I didn't scare too many of the new growers away from this amazing hobby. Don't forget to subscribe to Jeff's Giant Growing Journal on YouTube, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and I'll be sure to get back to you. And did you by chance happen to catch the mistake I made during my presentation? If not, you might want to go back and watch it again. God bless and grow big.